Welcome to the Construction Disruption Podcast, where we uncover the future of design, building, and remodeling.
I'm Todd Miller of Isaiah Industries, manufacturer of specialty metal roofing and other building materials. And today, my co-host is none other than Ethan Young, the chill guy who's always fun to have on here. How you doing, Ethan?
I'm doing pretty good, Todd. Thanks for that. How you doing?
I'm doing well also. I'm glad to be here today and get this show recorded. I've been looking forward to this one. So once again, we are doing our challenge words where both Ethan and I and our guest have a top secret word that we have been challenged to work into the conversation somehow so our audience can be listening to see if you can figure out what our challenge words were. And at the end of the show, we will tell you what our words were and whether we work them into the conversation or not. So you good to go, Mr. Young?
I am, Todd. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So we cover a lot of ground here on Construction Disruption, from design to tech, and sometimes we dig into products. Sometimes we look to different types of training. In fact, we've built quite an archive of past shows, but today's show is a topic that the more I dug into it, the more interested I became in it. And that is the proliferation of greenhouses, grow houses, sun chambers. Ultimately, more greenhouses are beneficial to our food chain as well as to other things. And today, our guest is an expert in that area. Our guest today is Josh Holleb. Josh is the Systems Integration Specialist at Ceres Greenhouse Solutions, based in Boulder, Colorado. And he has the full scoop for us on how these structures work, how they are impacting construction and our world. Josh, welcome to Construction Disruption. Pleasure to have you here with us today.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Good deal. So let's just dig into it. So tell us what Ceres does. I mean, I understand that you folks engineer various types of what I'll call grow structures, but do you also supply the parts? Do you get involved in construction? What is the scope of work that Ceres does?
Yeah, we are heavily a design company. We do a lot of engineering work. So we do detailed design, engineering. We also supply materials, and then we also support in construction. So we'll ship the majority of your building to you, and then we will help you build it, but we don't build it. Becoming a construction company is a whole nother level. And for really big projects, we will take on a GC and manage the entire project. But for the most part, we are designing, supplying, and then aiding and guiding it.
So on the supply of product for the structures, I mean, are you doing some of the prefabrication or having some of that done, or what does that look like?
We are not a manufacturer. So we are very much a design engineering company. We do a lot of R&D as well, but we do not have any like on the ground, rigid manufacturing. A, it's expensive to get into, and B, it kind of puts you on a path that you can't really get off of if you own a certain kind of manufacturing, certain type of manufacturing. So we have a bunch of manufacturing partners, but it allows us to be really fluid. So if things change, we can find a new partner, and so that's been pretty great for us.
That probably allows you to be sort of regionalized too, based upon your various manufacturing
somewhat.
partners.
You'd be surprised, but yes, it does. If we're doing a West Coast project, have manufacturers closer to the West Coast versus an East Coast project. So you save some in shipping costs, but it's minor.
So I'm curious. I mean, a lot of our audience members are folks in construction, and I mean some design, but a lot of construction. Is there any way for them to even get involved with some of your structures as sort of local erectors or builders?
Yeah.
Or what does that look like?
Yeah, we have a ongoing list that's constantly growing of local erectors. Smaller projects can be just any general contractor. Larger projects, we look for steel-specific builders. But we're using light or heavy gauge steel framing, sandwich panel, insulated metal panels. We basically, when we designed our product, we looked for what was available and what people knew how to build, as well as what worked for our need. So I was a general contractor, residential, for a decade. And so I'm very much in the mindset of not only is this a cool design, but is it buildable and is it efficient to build? Because sometimes in design, building is a secondary thought.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. You're right. Sometimes you get a little carried away with the design and, this isn't too practical.
So oftentimes our buildings sometimes people are like, can we make it a little more custom or appealing? And we can, but it's not the main focus. The function, the focus is efficiency, effectiveness, and ease of building and maintaining.
Yeah, love it. So Ceres, who your company is named after, I had to look this up, I confess, was a Roman goddess of agriculture. And, that was chosen for your company name. I'm kind of curious, how does having that as your company name kind of impact the overall ethos or philosophy and culture of your company?
I think, if anything, it puts it in perspective. All we're doing here is trying to help grow food. And people have been doing that for a really long time. And so, hopefully we're just kicking the ball down the road a little bit farther, and hopefully the ball rolls a little bit better because we're efficiency minded. But really, we're just part of a much bigger story of how we get food to the people.
That's cool. And something most of us don't think about very often, that's for sure.
Yeah.
If I could chime in here too, Ceres is actually where we get the word cereal.
That's right.
Oh.
Yeah, that's another little tie in there for you.
Gosh, you're teaching me all kinds of things. I thought we got cereal from serial killer, but no, maybe not. So I believe, Josh, you were the company's second employee after the founder. I'm kind of curious. That was 12 years ago. What sort of growth and change have you seen? And is the company on the path that you envisioned 12 years ago, or did it have to change some? Because I know sometimes businesses are that way.
Yeah, it was just two of us. My partner and the founder, he's a PhD chemical engineer. He's a really, a brilliant guy and an amazing guy. And that's kind of what brought me in. But I was pretty deep into growing in greenhouses at the time when I met him, but I had a completely different skill set. And so I said, I can do things that you're not doing. You're coming up with all these great ideas. I can build and do practical things, and I know plants. And we worked together, in the home office at his house. I was just with his family for several years. And now, we've been up to 30 something people. We're at 25 or 28 employees right now. So it's quite different in the day to day, but we started doing little greenhouses in people's backyards. They slowly got bigger. Cannabis legalized. I, through building, had some experience in cannabis because I was helping people build facilities for cannabis. Yeah. So we never really saw that coming, but now where we're at is finally we've designed our kit house. We have a residential kit house. That was always part of the goal 8 years ago, but we couldn't do it then, and we can do it now. So the path, while bumpy and weird, kind of is going where we thought it was going to go. But we're also doing some really large projects. We've done big cannabis projects. We're doing really large ag projects now that we never saw coming. And so the progression of our work has been very cool. So some what we expected and some not so much.
So I'm curious, what sort of geographic footprint have you served so far? Are you shipping product and working with structures all over, or what's that look like?
Yeah, we're Colorado based. Our first few projects were in Colorado. Our product works really well in northern climates. And so we've built in all over the United States. We've built in Canada a fair amount. We're doing commercial lettuce grows in Canada. We can grow year-round lettuce, no problem, locally in Canada. We've got some greenhouses in Alaska. We're now working on projects in Portugal and Greece. We have some of our systems that we've engineered are in Bahrain. And now we're starting more and more to work in climates like in the Middle East, Kuwait currently, like a camel, our greenhouses can be sealed and reuse their own water for a very long time. So with really minimal input, they can go a really long distance. And so that works well in the Middle East. We also have cool new glazing technology that we're using that can passively cool a greenhouse. So we're designing for hotter and hotter temperatures based on what the environment is doing. And in places like the Middle East, where they need food, but they can't really grow it, we can recirculate water and reduce heat with, no energy inputs. And so we're starting to see our market change and expand in pretty interesting ways.
So tell us a little bit about the glazing technology, the glazing that you're using, because I understand that kind of differentiates you from a lot of your competition.
Yeah, a lot of greenhouse manufacturers, especially in the US, use polycarbonate, which degrades with UV. So that usually has a UV blocker on the outside, which allows the polycarbonate to last a long time, but it takes away the UV, which is actually something that is a stressor for pests and pathogens. And so it's good to let it into the greenhouse. Plants live outside and they use UV. It's a stressor, and it's oftentimes a positive stressor for them, but it limits mildews and bugs and things. So we've strayed from the polycarbonate in our higher productivity greenhouses. We have an acrylic glazing that we use. It's UV transmissive. And now we have an ETFE film, which is, we import it, and it is a ethyl fluoride. Don't even get me started on what it is, but it's a tensioned film that allows light and UV to pass through it very well. And now we're starting to add added technologies onto it where we can infrared block or infrared absorb, so we can still get the light in, but not the heat. And so we're starting to use that in single and multi-layer applications, which is a real leap in greenhouse glazing technology. They use it in Europe somewhat, but we've been pushing it a little bit harder here because we have more extreme weather events than they do in Europe.
Pretty amazing stuff. Absolutely. I'm curious, the end use of your greenhouses. I mean, food, cannabis, you mentioned the at-home kit, which I want to hear more about. How does your business typically break down as far as what those end uses look like?
Yeah, per project, it's probably predominantly residential, small commercial, on a number basis. A lot of people just want to grow food, and especially during COVID, it was kind of wild. But we do a lot of smaller greenhouses. We have small kits, 18 foot by 30 foot, which for a backyard is pretty significant, but in the scheme of things, it's small. A lot of 3,000 square foot single greenhouses for small commercial growers who are kind of feeding their community in places where there's not great food. Revenue wise, a single big project puts all those to shame. We have large ag projects all over the US, and we have a bunch of big cannabis projects all over the US. Our cannabis growers are in Massachusetts, they're in Maine, they're all over the place, places where you wouldn't be able to grow in a greenhouse year round, and they're just cranking out product year round.
Interesting. Well, tell us a little bit more. You mentioned earlier that you have a home kit, I think you called it, where it's a house with a greenhouse. Tell us a little bit what that looks like. And who is attracted to that?
Yeah, well, so it doesn't feel new to me, but it's a new product for us. We've been working on it for a few years when we had time. It's called Vesta, which is the goddess of hearth and home. We got a theme here. And it's a passive inspired house with an attached greenhouse. I don't know if you guys know what an earthship is. It might be more of a West thing, but an earthship is a design that came out of New Mexico. It's rammed earth into tires, and it's this whole crazy thing, and it's cheap to build, but it takes years, but it has an attached greenhouse that heats it and it stays cool and all this. So our mindset was, how do we take what we have, steel frame, insulated panels, same supply chain that we're using every day for our greenhouses, and change the shape. So it's passive style house. We have appropriate overhangs for shading in the summer on the south facing windows, but allows heat and warmth in the winter. Attached greenhouse that'll heat it in the winter and allows you to grow food. And we've built one, and it's amazing. It's just about done. And you learn a lot when you build the first one, but we did pretty good considering. The client's happy, we're happy. And now we make some tweaks. We're about to build a second one. But it's a cool remedy for excessive housing costs. I mean, construction is just very expensive right now. Mm-hmm. And so the kit is relatively cheap. It's pre-engineered and it's fast to build. I mean, we are a dried in shell of a house in 3 weeks probably, and it's super efficient. So once it's built, you're off, you're going to have small bills, if any bills, for the duration of the house. And it's a steel house. So we assume 50, 100-year house. So it's a cool experiment that we're just learning about.
Well, I love it. I mean, I saw it on your website too, and I'm thinking home sweet home. I mean, it's a great concept. So another thing I heard you say on a podcast that really interested me or struck me was that commercially grown food typically travels 1,500 miles from where it's grown to where it's consumed. And that was just pretty staggering for me. And I know in some cases it's probably 4,000 or 5,000 miles if it's coming out of South America or something. But what do you see as problems with food having to travel that far? And why does more local growing make sense to you, personally and as a business?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of endless. I get to do a lot of traveling, and I've seen it. I've been in Yuma, Arizona in the winter where all the lettuce comes from, all winter. And it's crazy to see it. But then that lettuce has to move. So we see it with COVID. We've seen it, if there's a natural disaster, what if the lettuce can't get there? That you don't have lettuce. It's like you're just a little bit helpless. The same goes for tomatoes or something that are coming out of Mexico. They're harvested early. They're not so good. I'm a huge advocate for eating with the seasons. So maybe we shouldn't be eating tomatoes in the middle of winter, but we can. And we can do it by growing them closer to home in greenhouses. And so I have local growers. Like I was just outside of Madison, Wisconsin, small farm, organic farm. She grows lettuce all winter and sells to restaurants. The chefs love her. I mean, she's the only one producing it, and she doesn't heat the greenhouse and she doesn't add lights to the greenhouse. She could grow more faster if she did this, more inputs, but she doesn't. And she's still able to do it. And when the chefs are like, I want your lettuce, you're doing something right. And then the other thing that it's harder to quantify is nutrition. I mean, food matters, and food matters because we like the way it tastes, but it fuels our bodies. And early harvested tomato out of Mexico is less nutritious than a, fully ripened on the vine tomato that you got from 15 miles away from the local farm. And at some point, food is medicine, and we're going to have to start realizing that, and where the food comes from and how long it takes to get to you really is going to matter.
Wow. Well, you also talk a lot, and I think this kind of leads into that, this sense of community that can happen when food is grown locally. And I know you even have a couple of videos where people who've bought the greenhouses talk about how a community has sprung up around it. Can you expand a little bit on that, what that sense of community means or how that happens?
Yeah. I mean, people are curious about where their food comes from. And when they can go see it, it's very cool for everybody. I mean, we see it more and more now with schools. So we do a lot of elementary schools, high schools. We're actually in Boulder building a new greenhouse at the main community garden site, which is absolutely the coolest for us because people garden there. They have their little, 10 foot by 10 foot community garden plots. And now they can see this next level of gardening. And it's just really about education. And so we've learned that when the kids are in the greenhouses, it truly is a different world, but they are focused. They are excited about what they're doing. And it's amazing to see it.
So you talked about some of the benefits of just kind of introducing people to growing in greenhouses and stuff. What's kind of the comparison from using a greenhouse grower from just typical outdoor growing, like you're talking about, community garden plot?
I'm personally a huge advocate of having an outside garden, growing food outside. In most parts of the US and most parts of the world, we're seasonally limited to when we can grow outside and what we can grow outside. And so what we can do with the greenhouse, because these are built environments, is we can, depending on how many systems we're putting into each greenhouse, some have very few, some have a lot, we can really control the environment to a certain extent. So in a place that's too hot, we can cool it down potentially to grow lettuce where you normally wouldn't be able to grow lettuce. You can't grow lettuce in Yuma, Arizona in July, but you can in January. And so it's not greenhouse better than outdoor. What we see mostly with outdoor is we are not a soil focused culture. Soil health is food health. We grow at such large scale that we're really depleting the soil, and then we spray it with stuff to make it grow again. And so it's a whole cycle, and it's a whole nother conversation. But to be able to supplement with your own little greenhouse or community greenhouse is a really nice way to diversify where your food comes from.
I want to talk a little bit more about the construction. And we mentioned, because we work with a lot of guys who do metal work and so forth. So, what's that learning curve for someone to build a greenhouse that's never built one before, that, is typically using 2x4s and all that type of stuff? I mean, can they pick up on this fairly quickly?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I would actually say it's easier than traditional construction. For the most part, we're using 14 gauge steel frame that goes together with bolts or tech screws. It's pretty straightforward. Sandwich panel is a screwed on sandwich panel. It's caulk and panels. When you put up a sandwich panel, the interior is finished, the insulation's done, the exterior is finished. It's pretty awesome. The roof of our greenhouses, that's not glazing, same deal. It's interior is finished with metal, the insulation's on, and your metal roof is installed, all with a single panel placement. So that's easy. The unique part is usually the glazing installation. That's where a contractor is usually like, I've never done this before. And we have detailed drawings, and we have architects on staff. We've been doing this for long enough where we're learning what they need to see. And then we walk everyone through the process as well. So in general, for construction, it's pretty straightforward. Water in, power in, build a shell, install the systems. For construction, it's pretty easy. It's never easy. Like boots on the ground is never easy, but for construction, it's relatively easy.
That's good stuff. Well, are there any trends that you're seeing or potential changes on the horizon? I mean, I'm not even sure what this might relate to, but things that you see are going to impact the greenhouse industry. I mean, obviously, cannabis has been a huge impact. Anything else that you're seeing having an impact?
Yeah, I mean, cannabis was interesting because it was a bunch of money very quickly, which isn't normal for greenhouse design. And so we got to push some technologies and we learned a lot. And now we get to spread those technologies to other areas. Cannabis has really fallen off from where it was, 5-6 years ago, as far as how busy it makes us. I think the most exciting thing right now is the glazing technologies. We've got some glazings, plants look green because they reflect green light. It's the one light spectrum they don't really use. We have glazings that can turn green light into red light. Make it, it's nanotechnology. It's in the glazing. It can change the light spectrum. Mostly what we're excited about is the infrared blocking or absorbing technologies. Greenhouses overheat. That is just a thing, no matter what. In Colorado, we need to cool in the middle of the winter when the sun's out. When we can deploy a glazing material that will block infrared and especially block it only when we want it to block it, we can cool a greenhouse without any mechanical systems at all, which is a huge energy saver. And our goal is efficiency and growing. And so these are the things I think that we're most excited about.
I'm curious, are there any particular colleges or universities out there that seem to be on the leading edge of, building science technology in terms of glazing?
Well, CEA is a term, controlled environment agriculture. That's kind of a driver in this field. The University of Arizona has a biosphere. They have a really cool CEA program. And I believe Ohio State University is also doing a lot of really cool work with CEA. And then we're just this little family-run organization that's cranking things out on our own. I'm not comparing us to these huge universities by any means. We are pretty globally connected for a commercial business. And so we are able to go around the world and find technologies and then help to make them commercial, which we found to be successful for us. And it, just because we're curious, it keeps us on the cutting edge of what's going on.
Yeah. And I love that because you guys have that ingenuity and that, drive to learn things and to go out and find them. I know that as I look at building science, I'll see certain universities just really also have kind of that passion. So thank you for mentioning a couple of them. That's cool. So if we had younger folks out there who are intrigued about, the greenhouse industry, what advice would you have for them? I mean, think of them as you 12 years ago. What advice would you have for them today?
I think it's twofold. The first is to learn plants. In the end, this is all about plants. And so we think so much about the built environment that we're designing and creating. But if you understand what the plants need, you can build a pretty cool building for the plants. The other thing is to study it, I think. Had I known that there's an amazing CEA program at the University of Arizona, I probably would have made a few different life choices on my path. Or send us an email. We have interns all the time who come work for us and then turn into employees. So if it's something that you're interested in, then I think follow that passion, whether it's through doing the work or studying the buildings or studying the plants.
So it's been great talking with you, Josh. I've been very informative. We're close to wrapping up kind of what we call the business end of things. Is there anything we haven't covered today that you wanted to be sure to share with our audience?
I mentioned earlier that we do a lot of design, and I think I just want to reiterate, probably in building, but definitely in the building that we do, doing the design first before a shovel touches the ground is so important for the building to function the way that you want it to. So we're really design focused because we often see people who are halfway through a project or maybe almost done with a project. Like, it's too hot, it's too cold, it's not doing the thing that we want to do, but they're too late.
Mm-hmm.
And so we really try to encourage just like take the time, do the research, design it appropriately, try not to skimp if you can, and make sure the thing you're going to try and do works the way you want it to. Because in the end, we want the buildings to work the way you want the buildings to work.
I love that. And that's part of our advice too, is figure out what it is you want to accomplish and then kind of back that into whatever design or products or whatever it is you need to accomplish that. But
Yep.
you set those criteria first. I love that. So Josh, again, this has been great. Before we close out, I do want to ask you if you'd like to participate in something we call our rapid fire questions. So these are 7 questions. Some may be a little silly. Some are more serious. All you have to do is give a quick response to them. You up to the challenge of rapid fire?
Yes, I'm ready.
Cool. We will trade off asking questions. Ethan, you want to ask the first question?
Yeah, I can do this one. This is kind of a fortuitous one, but what's your favorite vegetable?
Carrot.
Carrot. Well, that's interesting.
Okay.
I like roasted carrots. We enjoy roasting them. That's good.
Yeah, I had to think fruit and vegetable there for a second. Carrot.
We roast carrots with radishes, actually, and the radishes take on a real sweet taste. Pretty cool. Okay, next question. Cat or dog person?
Definitely dog.
Dog person. That's our most common answer.
Question 3. Do you have a pet peeve you can share with us?
Bad audio. I hope I sound okay.
You sound
That sounds pretty good. Yeah.
No, you do. That's funny because Ryan, who does our production, that's one of his biggest pet peeves too.
I shoot a lot of videos on my iPhone.
Yeah.
But I have an audio set up, so at least it sounds okay, even if it doesn't look great.
Good for you. Well, you're a man after Ryan's heart for sure. What do you enjoy most about your work and, about what you're doing in your career?
It's food focused in the end, healthy food focused, which is cool. I've done this longer than I've done anything else, and it's still exciting somehow. So I'm on the right, 13 years later, I'm on the right track.
That's cool. You think of the lives that you're impacting. I love that.
All right. Oh, this is a classic question for us. If you had to eat a crayon, what color of crayon would you choose?
Ooh, I mean, do you go by your favorite color or what you think would taste the best? I guess I'm going to go blue because it's kind of my color and maybe it tastes like a blueberry or something.
Nice. Yeah. We've heard all sorts of reasoning for this one.
Yes. A lot of people say white because it won't show up on their teeth as bad.
Appearance isn't my thing, so I didn't even go there.
Next to last question. How long does it take you to get up, around, and out of the house in the morning? Of course, right now, I think your house may be traveling with you a little bit, but how long does that take you in the morning?
I have a 2-year-old now, so it's a little slower than it used to be.
Things.
But I can be pretty fast. I mean, I can just make a coffee and be out the door, so it could be 10 minutes.
Wow, that's fast.
Yeah.
I found as I get older, it takes me longer. I guess I'm just slower. I don't know.
But I don't. What I do now is I just wake up earlier and take my time, and I still leave at the same time.
Good deal.
All right, last one. What has been a new product or service you've purchased recently that was like a game changer for you?
I mean, I hate to promote this. Starlink, satellite internet, assuming this interview is going okay, has been a total game changer. We've been on the road for 2 months, visiting clients all over the country, having some life experiences, and I can work the entire time basically flawlessly because of it.
Always love it when someone in their community sees the Starlink satellite go over for the first time at night, and they're like, "We're being taken over. What is that all about?" Yeah, don't worry. It's just Starlink. It's good.
Well, I don't know if you need to worry or not worry, but I do know that on the day-to-day, it allows me to have internet in weird places.
Cool. Well, thank you again, Josh. This has been great. For folks who may want to get in touch with you or learn more about Ceres Greenhouse Solutions, how can they most easily do that?
Yeah, our web address is www.ceresgs, that's CERESGS.com. There is a ton of information on that website. And again, we're a small company, so just send an email through the website and it will either get to me or the person who can best answer your question.
Yeah, you guys got some great content out there, and I love some of your videos. They're very inspirational. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Well, okay. I think we all made it through our challenge words. Ethan, your word was?
Mine was fortuitous, and I kind of waited a while, but I think I had an all right spot.
You got it in there. I should have switched up the order of the questions. That would have thrown you. But Josh, your word was?
Camel.
Camel. You worked it in there well.
Yeah, very good.
And I had home sweet home, which I worked in there. So
it was great. Seamless.
Well, thank you again, Josh. It's been great.
Yeah. Thank you guys. That was fun.
Yeah. And thank you for tuning into this very special episode of Construction Disruption with Josh Holleb of Ceres Greenhouse Solutions. Please watch for future episodes of our podcast. We're always blessed with fantastic guests. Don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or YouTube. Until the next time we're together, keep on challenging, keep on disrupting, looking for better ways of doing things. And above all, don't forget to have a positive impact on everyone you encounter. Just make their life a little bit better. So God bless and take care. This is Isaiah Industries signing off until the next episode of Construction Disruption.
This podcast is produced by Isaiah Industries, manufacturer of specialty metal roofing and other building products.